Legal research is a task that must be done accurately, but also with a strategy to make the most of your time and effort. This video shares some key strategies and tools to consider to help you research efficiently and with cost in mind. The first strategy to consider is to create a research plan. Most law students, especially 1Ls, practiced a specific model of research planning in their legal research class, and that's a very good starting place. But now that you have a basic grasp of the important information in a research plan, you have the freedom to design something that works for you. As a reminder, the essential components of a research plan are to identify the legal question, the jurisdiction, brainstorm potential sources where you will search first, the key facts of the matter, and the search terms that describe those facts. There's a separate video in this series about research planning to give you a better idea about how to go about this process, so check that one out next. There is a separate video in this series about research planning to give you a better idea of how to go about that process. The next strategy is to understand clearly your employer's access to paid research platforms, whether you have a research budget, and what the cost recovery procedures are. You must have a clear understanding of what sources for legal research are available to you before you begin your work. Unless you are at an AM 100 firm, you're unlikely to have Westlaw Edge, LexisPlus, Bloomberg Law, Hein Online, all available to you. We'll talk more about how commercial subscriptions work in just a couple minutes. Next, you should identify free sources versus subscription sources in advance. We'll also spend a few minutes talking about how to choose your sources, but consider which sources are available at no cost, which are expensive, sometimes very expensive, and how you can use a combination of both of those for your legal research. Lastly, plan your time accordingly. What is your deadline, and how will you balance this new projects with your other ongoing work? An important point that can be somewhat invisible when you are a student is that access to legal information, and especially access to research tools that we rely on, and some added valued content cost money, in some cases quite a lot of money. In the commercial market, plans for access to legal research platforms like Westlaw and Lexis are highly negotiated custom packages that allow access to specific content on the platform. For example, a firm in West Virginia might choose to subscribe to primary sources in West Virginia, primary sources in the Federal Fourth Circuit, and a few secondary sources pertinent to the practice area. For the price of the package, there is unlimited use to that specific content. For access to any content outside that package, there can be a steep price tag. For example, this is a current pricing guide for Westlaw commercial plans, giving sample pricing for accessing content outside of a plan. Some of these prices are alarming, like $146 for a law review article. This is contrasted with your current academic accounts, which allow you to access any content as much as you like. You will get alerts before you click on any content outside of a plan, but knowing the boundaries ahead of time is important. It's also important to understand if and how your employer bills research costs back to the client, and whether you have a legal research budget for your project. Sometimes it is necessary to acquire sources outside of a commercial platform plan like Westlaw, Lexis, or elsewhere. There are, however, some tips and tricks here that can save you time and money within the rules I just described. So there are search functions on commercial plans that you can use without any limitations, like unlimited searching in subscription platforms at no additional cost, using pre-search filters and post-search filters, and terms and connector searching tools. But these can be a bit of a double-edged sword. So access to these robust features as part of a subscription plan are helpful, but if you have not mastered the use of filters and terms and connector searching, you will spend way too much time reviewing too many results. Also, your search results can contain documents in your plan and outside of your plan, which makes it easier to click through to an out-of-plan document. Shepardizing on Lexis also comes at no additional cost. If you use the shep command in the global search bar, followed by a citation, you will not incur any charges to view the Shepard's report. You may, however, incur charges for accessing a case from the report that's outside your employer's plan. For Westlaw, specific to your case law research, there are no transactional costs associated with browsing the Key Number Digest system. So this research tool is very important for your case law research and can be a good place to start and later incorporate a free source as necessary. There are also a few tools that save you considerable time by gathering like sources together, and that includes 50-state surveys that collect and organize the law on a specific topic or legal question in one big chart. Each research platform, Westlaw, Lexis, and Bloomberg, all have different offerings in terms of topics, but function in a similar way. All three research platforms also have practice centers or practice areas that collect primary and secondary sources in an area of law all in one place, and this makes for a really helpful starting place. Westlaw even allows you to set a practice area page as your start page when you log in. So what does all this mean for your academic accounts? Lexis and Bloomberg both allow you to use your academic accounts over the summer without any limitations. Westlaw is a little different in that summer access is only permitted for work such as summer coursework, research assistant assignments, law review or journal research, moot court research, nonprofit work, clinical work, or some type of externship, as long as it isn't a situation where a client is being billed. Source selection is an important part of your research plan and effectively conducting your research. There are a few things to consider here before you begin. First, know the content of the source that you're searching before you start. What jurisdictions do they cover? Do they include cases, statutes? If it's a secondary source, what topics specifically are covered here? Also, know the scope. What date ranges does this database offer? Understanding these parameters of your source before you begin will save you time in the end. And finally, free does not always equal cost-effective. When beginning your research, you must understand the limitations of free sources for legal information as well. Free sources have limited scopes compared to subscription databases. They do not cover large time spans that subscription databases often do, and they do not have search tools and features that we often rely on, like terms and connector searching. Most of the free resources that we see offer only keyword searching and browsing. There are no key number digests or headnotes to use either. Missing these tools can mean that although access to the content itself has no cost, your time certainly does. If you spend 1 hour on a task in a free source that may take 10 minutes using the tools available on a commercial platform, you may want to reconsider your strategy. There's also no free online citator to inform you of good or bad law. I also have to give you a warning about Google Scholar. While Google Scholar is really a tremendous source for searching articles and case law, you will see a link under sources that reads "How cited." This is not a citator. It's a link to a collection of sources that an algorithm identifies as citing documents. It is a list of documents that cite to the original, but it gives no indication of the nature of the citation or the treatment. All this being said, combining free sources with paid sources can be an important part of your legal research plan. For example, you can start your research on a commercial platform to take advantage of advanced tools like the key number system, but if your searches reveal a case that looks helpful but is outside your jurisdiction and outside of your Westlaw plan, turn to Google Scholar to locate it from another free source. Then return to a commercial platform to use a citator to check validity. Another important point about using free sources is about assessing credibility. You should be asking, who created this page and who wrote the content? Is it a government website? Is it an educational institution? What is the purpose or the intended audience? Is the purpose of the page informational, or is it for advertising, promotional? Is it news? Is it an opinion piece? When was that information last updated? And is there any bias in the presentation of the information? This video is an introduction of strategies and tools to integrate into a legal research plan for efficient and cost-effective research, but reach out to a librarian for any help applying these to any research project over the summer.